World leaders are gathering in Biarritz in the south of France for the G7 summit this weekend. But trade tensions aside, another issue is set to dominate talks, and that's the climate crisis facing the Amazon in Brazil.
The world's largest rainforest is seeing a record number of fires. Experts have reported an 84% spike this year over the same period in 2018.
France's leader has called for the issue to be made a priority at the G7. But that's not sitting well with Brazil's president, Jair Bolsonaro, who won't even be at the summit.
He's accused Western leaders of colonialist mindset. He says France is making this a matter of personal political gain.
Environmental groups blame Mr. Bolsonaro's policies for the current crisis. They say he's encouraged the clearing of land by loggers and farmers. And President Bolsonaro insists he's the victim of a smear campaign.
The Amazon's degradation will have severe consequences on the global climate. It's also home to about 1 million indigenous people like the Mura tribe, and they're feeling the heat.
Eu acho que isso aqui é uma destruição que estão fazendo aqui, que quer dizer uma falsidade com a gente, né, com a natureza também. Que ninguém esperava isso, né, acontecer, mas está acontecendo. E sabemos que nós sentimos muito, né, por causa disso.
And for more on this, we're speaking to Bob Ward, Policy and Communications Director at the Grantham Research Institute on Climate Change and the Environment at LSE. Thank you very much, Bob, for joining us. First up, French President Emmanuel Macron. Yeah, he's called for the group of 7 nations to hold urgent discussions about the fires. Realistically speaking, what actions can they take, given that Brazil won't even be at the table?
Well, they can put pressure on Brazil. I'm afraid that President Bolsonaro's attitude that the rainforest in Brazil is only Brazil's matter is really not an acceptable way forward. The Amazon rainforest is absolutely vital to the whole world because it is a massive source of reducing carbon dioxide emissions. Burning the Amazon rainforest damages the climate in 2 ways. First of all, when you burn the trees, you release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. We all suffer because it adds to the levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Secondly, the trees themselves then stop absorbing any more carbon dioxide, which means it doesn't counteract the burning of fossil fuels as much. And so it really cannot be that Brazil decides to turn a blind eye to the illegal practices that are driving this. This is essentially the Brazilian government turning a blind eye to those who are illegally burning parts of the rainforest. And I hope that the G7 leaders will present a united front and say to Brazil, you need to stop this illegal activity. They also need to discuss ways in which they can incentivize Brazil to take more care of the rainforest, and that might mean looking at financial rewards for Brazil for conserving the forest.
Bob, you mentioned that the fires have been set intentionally. What are you sort of basing that on? And also, is that for showing the extent of these deliberate fires, or is it a case that they've also been getting out of control?
Well, the count is the number of separate fires. There are no figures at the moment for the area that's being consumed, but it's the highest number since they started being recorded by satellite in 2013. So there's clearly a problem, and there are widespread reports from Brazil that what is causing these fires are farmers deliberately setting fire to the forest to clear patches so that they can carry on farming. And this is illegal activity. This is not activity that is allowed by Brazilian law, but what has happened is President Bolsonaro's administration has decided to reduce the amount of enforcement of the law, and essentially those who engage in these illegal activities are going ahead with it. So President Bolsonaro needs to enforce Brazilian law, stop this illegal practice, because he's damaging long-term the sustainable future of Brazil, but he's also doing terrible damage to the global climate. Every country in the world will suffer as a result.
You mentioned that, the global climate. So what kind of an impact would it actually have on the rest of the world?
Well, the Amazon is the world's largest rainforest. It currently sucks up about 600 million tons of carbon dioxide every year. We emit 50 billion tons of carbon dioxide through human activities, mainly the burning of fossil fuels. So that 600 million is a vital part of trying to balance it. It doesn't make up for the emissions we make, but if we stop soaking up carbon dioxide from the rainforest, then we will find it much more difficult to stop the rise in concentrations, which is what we need to do if we want to stop global warming. Only when we get to effectively zero emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases will we stop global warming. And at the moment, we've seen 1 degree of rise in global temperature and widespread impacts, rising sea level, changes in extreme weather all around the world. We're heading at the moment on a path that it could be a rise of 3 degrees or more by the end of the century, which would be catastrophic. It would lock in long-term changes that we simply won't be able to cope with, like multi-meter rises in global sea level that will threaten low-lying coastal areas all around the world. So this is absolutely critical, and we're reaching a point of almost no return.
Indeed, it is a critical situation, and thank you very much for speaking to us and helping us understand this. Bob Ward, Policy and Communications Director from the London School of Economics and Political Science.